it going? Today I want to give you a tour through our vegetable garden. Everything's looking pretty good right now, and all the beds are almost, I think, pretty much full at the moment. So I thought it would be a great day. Plus we've had a cold front move through, and it's not so cold that I can't put tender stuff out, but it's cool enough that it's keeping our spring stuff, especially the stuff that wants to bolt when it gets warm, it's keeping them looking really good. And I'm hoping that this video is helpful, just seeing the layout of our space and how I plant my stuff and my plans, like my future plans for this year and what I'm going to be planting in those beds after my other stuff is done. So we'll go bed by bed. I kind of want to go through some of the basics of raised beds. We did do a video though earlier on. What was it called? Most asked questions about raised beds. We'll link it down below if you want to kind of get a little bit more into detail. But this is the entrance to our vegetable garden on this side. We have a nice redwood arbor with Colette roses that are budded up and blooming and looking beautiful. They just started opening. The blooms did a couple days ago. I know that's not vegetable related, but I love to have pretty with practical as well. First off, as we move right in, I like to scatter containers around wherever I have space. So I've had this pot of chives sitting here for about 3 years. The same plant, same container. It's on drip. There's a little drip tube that runs up from the flower bed behind it. And I just have to cut it back when it's done flowering and then cut it back in the fall, and that's it. And it comes back every single year. This is an amazing plant, and I really like chives. So it's nice to have something that's perennial that will come back every year. So first off, all of my beds are made of 2x12 redwood, which is a rot-resistant wood, lasts a really long time, and I think it's a nice size. You know, eventually, when I am a little older, I may want to build these up a little bit, and that's the beauty of raised beds. You can make them however you want, so that it's comfortable for you. That's one of the benefits of raised beds. The other benefit is that you get to control the soil. So what I have in mind, when we initially put these in, we used a bulk raised bed mix from a local source, and it was a really good mix. But every time I plant a new crop, I use the starter fertilizer Biotone, and then at the beginning of every season I use a compost mixed in. And this year I used Land and Sea from Espoma, and you can see it's clearly working. Everything is just huge and gorgeous. So I decided to go with 3-foot widths, and this is the other benefit of building kind of custom raised beds, is that you can make them work the best for you. And I wanted to be able to, like, while I'm down here, you know, messing around weeding or whatever, I can reach all the way to the other end without, or the other side without really any issue. And that's really important to me. Had it been another foot, I'd have to get up and go around, and that's just extra steps that are unnecessary for me. So I've got 3x4s, 3x6s, and then 3x6 sort of kind of L configurations over there, which we'll go through. But in this bed, so let's just start going through plants. I planted iceberg lettuce and another red leaf lettuce. I can't remember the name of it, but you can see that it's really starting to look good. I'm just going to use this as leaf lettuce so I can start harvesting this anytime. If I was going to want it to head up, it would probably be ready toward the end of this month. So knowing that, and knowing that lettuce and really a lot of different greens can't handle the heat and they want to bolt, I know that this space right here will be empty for the summer months. We have a fairly long growing season, so as long as you pay attention to the maturity days of whatever you're putting in after your spring crops, then you can get away with doing more things. So like in this bed, I'm going to probably put peppers, because peppers don't get enormous. I've got strawberries, Buried Treasure red strawberries. Look at this. I think I was noticing last night. Oh, look at all the berries starting to form. It's the perennial. These are the ones from Proven Winners, and I'm really loving them. So I don't want anything massive. I put a tomato in here last year, and it was quite large to have in when I've got other things growing around the perimeter. So peppers will go into this space. I do have a volunteer sunflower that I just thought I would let it go because it's cute and it's doing its thing. Why not? In this bed here, I've got potatoes, which I planted a little later than I would like to. I can't even remember what variety. German butterball in the front half, right here, and Russet Burbank in the back half. And I believe these have a fairly similar maturity date. So end of July, beginning of August is probably when these will be ready. And I just went in today. You can see how I kind of drew some soil up and hilled these up just a little bit. I've got to do it to the rest of the bed. But these, since they come out so late in the season, I will probably start some fall crops in here maybe a week or two after these come out, which is one of the reasons I really like our whole space is set up on drip. But when we had the whole area tore up, we had individual faucets brought to each bed. So the week or two that this has nothing in it, I will be able to turn off the water and we won't waste any. Yeah, so if you're setting up your own beds, I'd highly recommend, like if you have the area torn up, we happen to have trenching going on all over our property at the time this vegetable garden was put in. So we thought, well, why not? We'll have an individual faucet just, you know, brought in since the water was coming this way anyway. But you can put inline valves on your drip system if that's how you have your water set up, so that you can turn off individual areas. And we have done videos about drip irrigation. We did one this spring. We'll link that down below as well, just for more details on that. Moving on to this bed over here, we have bull's blood beets, which are looking fantastic. Look at these. It rained a little bit this morning, so it looks especially wonderful, but I'm kind of feeling underneath to see how they're forming, and they are forming nice beets. But these won't be ready until I think the end of this month, beginning of June. But you know, we don't eat a ton of beets. I'll probably give a lot of these to my parents. But this bed will probably have a tomato in it, I'm guessing, because I've got this whole area that will be empty. And then on this side here, we have Walla Walla onions, which these are a 90 to 120 day onions. So these won't be ready until the middle of summer. We've done several videos, in fact, on the Walla Walla onion about planting and harvesting and such. And they typically do really well. They're heavy feeders, so there's something I have to come and side dress with Garden Tone probably about now. I need to come in and do that now, and then I'll probably do it one more time before we harvest. Sun's coming out for us a little bit. Nice. Right here, I have these, can't even remember what they're called. We'll put the name on the screen. I put some indeterminate tomatoes. I've got 4 of them in the corners of all 4 of these beds. And I put indeterminate tomatoes in them, not really thinking, because you guys know those tomato plants get enormous. They got huge. I didn't prune them. A windstorm came through, like a really bad one, and there's no protection right here. The arborvitaes were even a lot smaller, and it just bent all of my obelisks over. So I have been holding them together with wire, but I like these in here so much that I actually ordered 4 more. I have them in the barn, haven't had a chance to put them out here yet. And then I'll just see if somebody, one of my friends or family members, wants to have these, because you know, once you grow stuff on them, you can't really see. But I typically grow a flowering vine or something like that on these now, because again, I like to have something decorative. But you could do pole peas or pole beans, anything like that on here, or even train cucumbers up, and so you have food production as well. In this bed we have a Russell, you are not supposed to be in here. This is one of the reasons why this bed looks this way. Hey, these are Danvers half-long carrots here that have been totally roughed up by the kitties right in this area. But I did notice that my one, look at him, he is so naughty. Hey, I noticed that about right here, the drip tubing isn't working as well. This is the last little piece. It ends actually at the end of that those carrots. So I think I'm gonna just do some troubleshooting in this bed, because I've been having to come with the hose and just hand water this one tiny little area in the garden. Everything else is done really well. But they're looking great. And honestly, like, they mature probably first part of June. And I start harvesting them, and you can harvest them as babies if you want to. They're super tender and delicious, but I harvest all the way through summer. I don't find that they get super tough or anything like that. We roast ours for the most part anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Of course, if you're wanting to do fresh eating, when you harvest them at the proper time, they're sweeter, and not sweeter, but they are more tender a bit. Brussels sprouts right here. I've been checking on these just to see what kind of growth. I mean, the leaves look amazing. And it looks like they are starting to form. That's where the Brussels sprouts, form. And this is, yeah, what they look like. I need to start stripping off leaves at some point, but we'll probably do a video about that. And then we've got radishes, which need to go. They're too big. They are way overripe at this point. So these right here are French breakfast radishes on steroids. My word. And then these right here are cherry bells. These were ready at the end of April. So like mid to late April, and here we are mid-May. And so the longer they stay in the soil, the hotter they get, and the less tasty to me that they get. But a lot of you guys say roasting them is really good, and I don't know if you can still roast them at this point when they're so big. but I don't know. I need to harvest all of these or pull them all out at this point. But if you are a beginner or if you're growing a garden with kids, radishes are so great because they're a 23 or 25 day turnaround from planting your seed to harvestable produce. And even if you're not like 100% fan of them, which is kind of where I fall, I always grow them because they're always the first thing ready, and there's something very motivating about that. In this bed, I need to remove my cloches here. Oh, we've got more potatoes. And these are the extendable wire cloches I got from Gardener's Supply. I've got the little ones right here. I don't even, like, these are to keep critters off of your plants, like squirrels and rabbits, which we do not deal with either of in our garden. But I like the look of them so much, I just keep them in here for decorative purposes until they don't work anymore. So I'll find another spot for these. But we've got, in this bed, Huckleberry Golds on this half and Dark Red Norlands on this half. This is my earliest day, potato 75 day. So I will be able to harvest these right at the end of June, which I'm super excited about. And you can tell they're way ahead of the other ones. I mean, the growth rate is incredible on those. And then in the last bed, and I don't think I talked about the boxwoods, but these are Winter Gem boxwoods that are several years old. I planted them as 5-gallon plants, and they were kind of like the first year or 2 year training them. They're not very full, like there's little holes and stuff in them. And these are looking pretty good. Like they have a little work to do yet to fill in so I can kind of make my sphere a little bit more tight, but I think they're beautiful. Terracotta pots that have also been sitting out here for several years, even through the winter. I know it's risky, but they've survived for me. And then on this A-frame trellis, I've got Oregon sugar pod peas, which will probably be bearing in the next week or two. They're looking really good. Now they're not technically a climbing or a pole type plant, but they benefit from some sort of support. So I thought that they would be perfect. They usually get about this tall anyway, so I thought this would be a perfect thing to put here. And then I went ahead and seeded some spinach late, which we did a video. You can see that the cats got in here and messed up. They don't ever go to the bathroom in these beds. They just like lay in here. So, I mean, I'm lucky in that way, but this spinach will be ready. Let's see, if I planted it April 27th, it'll be ready beginning to mid part of June. But it's a really good idea if you want to extend the life of your greens. You can grow them underneath something where they'll get light now when it's cooler, and then they'll be protected. They'll get a little more shade as the season progresses and gets a little warmer. In this corner, we have our strawberries in our galvanized tub. Benjamin comes out here and checks on them every single day. So I never, ever get to eat any of the berries because he eats them all. I recently just planted some actually in flower beds because I'm like, you know what, I've got to amp up my strawberry count if I'm ever going to eat any of them. But it's really fun to watch him. When he saw me planting them in the flower bed the other day, he knew what they were, and he ran over and started searching the whole plant. So that makes me excited. Lady Godiva yellow calendulas from last year, you guys. Can you believe that? I think there was zone 7. We had a very mild winter, and they hung out in the greenhouse. In fact, we did a video about those like right in the middle of winter when they were in full glorious bloom. But they are looking super great. I mean, there's something very simple about a terracotta pot with like one single type of flower in it. I really like that look. So moving on to our other beds up here, we have Italian garlic. This is in the 3x4. I have 60 heads planted in this space. And I plant these typically in September, like mid-September to mid-October, depending on how our fall is going. And oftentimes I'll see a little bit of growth before winter happens. Winter happens, and then in the spring they just pick up and keep growing, and we harvest right around 4th of July. And so I'll have this bed for about half the season. And what I normally do in this space traditionally is I harvest my garlic and then I plant zinnias, which come up super fast, especially when it's hot and they bloom for the rest of the season. Like I usually have zinnia blooms in under 30 days, which is crazy. So that's what I traditionally have done. But now that we have our cut flower garden space, I will probably be working on more food production in this area. I'm just not sure exactly what yet I'm going to put in here. We'll see. I'll let you guys know. We'll do videos about it. But more potatoes in this bed. I had originally intended on planting my potatoes out in our new space, but we just didn't get water in there early enough. In fact, we just barely got water out there like yesterday, right? You got it worked out yesterday. So I ended up planting a ton of potatoes in this space, but it doesn't matter where they go. I'm just excited to have them. We've got Yukon Golds here. And then, where did my marker go? What's the other one? Which one am I missing? Like, my marker's just gone. Somebody out here stealing my marker. What is the one I'm missing here? So we have, oh no, I'm not missing a marker. For crying out loud, I planted this whole bed full of Yukon Golds because it's my favorite potato. Totally forgot. Then we've got candy onions right here, which are a little bit shorter day than our Walla Wallas. I think they're like an 80 to 90 day onion, and they're looking great. I mean, some of these, their necks are really thick and they're really strong foliage. When you plant these, especially by little plant starts, they're all flopped over and they look really sad for a couple of weeks before they root in and start to actually look like they're doing anything. So always happy to see that. We've got Copenhagen Market cabbage up here, which these are enormous cabbage. 100 to 120 day on these. You can see like right here, this one's starting to head up there, but you really can't beat the look of cabbage in the garden. I think it's one of the most beautiful things. In fact, I usually try to tuck some in a flower bed. I've got a 4-pack sitting over there by my hose ready to go somewhere out in the flower bed. And then in this one here, I have spinach from last year that I planted as a fall crop. Let it go all winter. I harvested some. We ate some this spring, and then it bolted when it got warm a little bit earlier this season. And I've just left it because I'm pulling out like 2 plants a day or 2 or 3, and I give them to the chickens so they get a little treat every day. We've got broccoli here. You can see how it's doing. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And then a couple that I let get away from me, you guys. Like, they have just performed really well. Look at that. That one's a little bit, I need to cut the top off, and it's still producing down below. So we'll still get more off of it, and the chickens will love this. These are more Walla Wallas I had left over. So I was able, I think, to fit 9 more Walla Wallas in this space. And then we've got more of the Buried Treasure red strawberries here. So they kind of ring around this space. So I think this is the Buried Treasure pink. But if you get in here, you should take a look at this. I mean, I need to still clean the plant up. This is like debris from last fall. But there are berries just starting to form like crazy. Look at that. Just all over. So exciting. This is Winter King spinach right here, which is pretty much like it needs to be harvested now, which I cut a little bit. You can tell right here it's shorter. I cut some off here. I think I cut some in there. I don't know. I'm not very organized in how I harvest things, but I can see that this one's producing flower stalks. So it's about ready to bolt. And once it bolts, the flavor does change just a tiny little bit. Not bad. But yeah, this is just perfect. And this is an example of a flat leaf lettuce spinach, which are much easier to clean. Then this whole bed is full of cabbage. I've got golden acre and red acre cabbage, kind of planted in a design-ish, every other. And I just wanted to plant this up with cabbage because it's so pretty, and we do like to eat cabbage, so I think this will be a good one. These right here, which I could put them away now, these are little protective cloches that I got from Gardener Supply. They have a little vent on the top right here, so you can close it if it gets really cold, or you can keep it open so that the air can still keep getting out in and out, and it doesn't form a ton of condensation. But this is when your plants are a lot younger. Like, I took these off a long time ago. I just haven't gotten around to putting them away. But they are really nice. They come with these like little, these right here, these little stakes that go through holes in the sides, and it tacks them down. There's like 3 different holes along the edge there, and so they don't fly off in the wind. But yeah, on those early days when you're planting these out and it's still freezing, these kind of protect your crops from that freeze. And then the last bed here is Italian garlic, 60 more heads. So we have 120 heads altogether in this space, and I think it's a beautiful plant. Like, I love the structure of this, and I'm just so thrilled with how this space is doing. But you do not have to plant in a space that's dedicated either. Like, if you are just getting started or you're getting excited about the thought of growing something, just grow stuff. Whether or not it's in your flower beds, in containers, in raised beds, or straight in the ground, it doesn't matter. In fact, I want to show you a couple other spots in our garden where I've got edible production going on that's not an actual dedicated edible space. What is the allure here? I don't get it. So over in this space, this brick patio area, we usually end up with a kind of a menagerie of containers of random projects and things. but I do have rhubarb planted in this container. Planted it last spring, meant to plant it out in the landscape in the fall, didn't get around to it, so I will be doing that this year. I've already had to cut bloom stalks off of it, but it has actually produced pretty well for being in a container. We also have a couple other, these are just herbs. We've got spearmint here, we've got rosemary, oregano, more chives, a garlic that didn't get harvested out of my spaghetti planter from last year, and there's a strawberry in there as well. So it's just fun to tuck stuff in where you can. And let me show you where I just put strawberries in a flower bed. Well, here's an idea too. You can get elevated raised beds. We just did a cocktail garden video where I planted this up full of herbs. There's a tomato, a pepper, strawberries, yeah, and the rest are herbs. So you can get, depending on what your situation is or your space is like, there's all kinds of different options. And then this is where I just planted a little hedge of buried treasure red strawberries. And this is where Benjamin was like, oh my goodness, he recognized, and he came up and he was showing me that there was berries. I told him, yep, that will be a berry, but you can't eat it yet. And then the last spot I want to show you is where I planted a bunch of lettuce. So up here in this garden, we do have a statue that's surrounded with a few boxwoods that I have not trimmed yet this spring. They're pretty woolly, but there's just empty soil around each one of these boxwoods. And typically every year I come in with some kind of an annual, blooming annual, and plant that up for the summer, but I'm not usually ready to do that until mid to late May. So I thought, what can I do in this space that's inexpensive, that might be like food production, that would still look pretty? So I bought a couple packets of lettuce, $5, $5 packets, to plant up this whole area. So it cost me $10, and I was able to direct seed this lettuce in this area and get a huge crop, which looks beautiful and utilizes the space in a better way than just leaving it empty. So I just wanted to show you this to give you an idea of something you can be thinking about, because a flower bed doesn't just have to be flowers. You can have flowers and then tuck in a cabbage or a tomato plant or herbs or whatever it is that you like to grow and eat. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to show you kind of the current state of all of our edible production. I always get really excited about it every year, and the vegetable garden area pretty much becomes my favorite spot in the entire property, because it's just, I don't know, there's something satisfying about growing stuff that you can eat. And while I like growing flowers as well, there's just nothing like food production. So anyway, I hope it was helpful too, just to see the layout and kind of hear what I'm planning to do the rest of the season. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.